Hello everyone, welcome to Homemakers Radio. It's designed to use as you walk or while you work, or maybe just do something that is a little repetitive. And if you would click the link in the description box on the channel, you can go to the post in which I have embedded this video and see the rest of the things that I have provided on there that goes with the subject, and also some other links that you might be interested in. And you can contribute there. You can also leave a comment. I don't have comments on the channel. Now, I am in the manse and in the sewing room. This is one of the rooms that one of my children grew up in, and all the rooms I have double for something else. There's a little tiny room that was a bedroom, but it's also an office. And then there's another room that's supposed to be a guest room, and I turned that into my letter room so I could spread everything out. And the dining room, of course, oh, it's everything, isn't it? It's the craft room. And the living room, of course, is full of everything else. And so, ladies, I have had quite 10 days since I have seen you, and keep thinking in the back of my mind, I want to get sitting down and start talking to you again. And was always besieged by feelings of inadequacy. And I felt like Lizzie, who said, "We are all of an antisocial, taciturn nature, unwilling to speak unless we can amaze the whole room and leave, unless we expect to say something that amazes the whole room and then leave it to posterity." And that's how I felt. And I just didn't want to come because I just didn't have anything that I felt was intelligent enough to say. But today I have collected a few things, and I will start out by encouraging you to dress as you like and get your day begun as best you can. Now, unfortunately, we cannot wait until the world settles down in order to have a life. There's only one. You can't waste it. You cannot put it off and wait until the war is over before you dress up and before you have tea and before you have company. And for my part, the last couple of years, I've just haven't participated in it. I haven't participated in what the powers that be are broadcasting to me. I'm broadcasting to them. They'll have to listen to me because I'm the governor here, and these are my rules, and there are rules for me, but not for them. So you all have to be mayor of your own house, and you have to run your own house, and you don't let them run it, because they will make you all sit in your house, not talking to each other, not touching each other, not being close to each other, covering your face, and being frightened all the time. You can't do that. And so today I want to show you, before you go to get yourself ready and do your absolute best, ladies, I want to show you my teacup. And I have been on my Jane Austen walk, and I will show you a picture of it later, as I had set it down so that I could walk. I filled it with something and then went to go for a walk, and it was empty, so I put it down to pick up on my way back. I'll show you a picture of it. And it's one of those Stechcall Gracie bone china that's so available around here. It has a beautiful inside rose. I always think it's more amusing to have something on the inside. And I did show you I had a video here a couple months ago in which some lady explained the art of drinking tea, and it wasn't anything too fancy or highfalutin or anything. Anybody could understand it. I showed it to my grandchildren, and one of the things that she emphasized is no one ever jokes about putting their pinky in the air. Nobody says things like that, and no one ever did it. It's only been a modern phenomenon that was designed to tell a joke and maybe even discredit the idea of this refined ceremony of drinking tea, and looking down on it in a way. I mean, I'm sure that when you were kids, you probably didn't mean anything very sinister about it. But if you've ever come across it at a gathering in which you have labored quite a bit to make it nice for everybody, and somebody starts to mock the teacup and raise it and put their pinky in the air, you will listen to this video that I will try to find and put on here. It was on a previous one of my previous posts. And she says that's just never, it was never discussed and it was never done. It's something that was invented by the moderns to discredit this domestic idea. So today we want to make sure that you get your dwelling. See, the first step would be to get yourself ready and get dressed, and then you have maybe a routine that you follow, like your prayers and your letter writing, or remember the Victorians spent the morning at their desk opening their mail, and or something, some kind of routine that you make for yourself that makes life happy and comfortable. And don't wait for the outside world to provide anything like this for them. Do not wait for if you're in a place where things are a little bit more restricted and you've lost some of your shops and you've lost some of your services, don't wait for all that to open up. Just create it for yourself at home. And there are many people doing it. I was looking on the videos a couple of nights ago and noticing all the things people were coming up with to do to replace their time and their jobs, and even to improve life at home, since there would be more people staying longer in the home. And I thought to myself that I must always have myself and the home ready, just in case I am called to in some way serve someone. No one really knows. And I always joked that if you got lonely and no one was coming to see you, and you just got a little fed up with it, the best thing to do would be not comb your hair and just walk around in your bathrobe for a while, because that's Murphy's Law. They just all come the minute you don't do anything to yourself. But try to keep the place ready. If anything, keeping your house as organized and as orderly as you can balances the mind. And I will discuss that a little bit later in regard to health too. So I have made a list for myself that you might be interested in, and I hope that you are either walking or working or doing something that needs to be done at home. And the things that I must do without delay. I wanted to do that, and I hope you'll do that too. Write it down and make a list of things that you want to do without delay. And one of the things is, or things I have always wanted to do, and I don't think many people always wanted to do things. They were just happy to get through the day. And not everybody has had a dream or has always wanted to do something, but might find something interesting that they've kind of chalked it up in their mind as something to consider that they would like to do. So I would just suggest two things to you that I've put on my list for myself, and that is take every opportunity to be as close to the people you love, through personal communication, cards, letters. And one thing that I found, we always regretted, my children and I, all my children are in their 40s now, but my children and I always regretted that the internet didn't exist when we were homeschooling in the 1980s, because we reached a dead end on so many subjects and we wanted to go further. We wanted to see what it was all about. And just now some of this information is coming out. So I told my oldest one, well, we could just start over. We could just be educated again and start over. And so one of the things that we want to do is be as close to people you love. And we did not have the internet. So what do? The long, lonely days away from our kindred were excruciating for us in some places that we lived, and we got no sympathy, of course. And I'm a preacher's wife of 50 years, and we always Mr. S always wanted to go where he thought he was needed, and it wasn't long before we would move again. However, for some reason, we ended up in one place here where I am speaking from the manse for 30 years. I don't know how that happened, but it worked out really well, and maybe we're still needed. And so be close to the people you love. And I mentioned the internet on this because it's so handy. But we did not have it, but we had newsletters. And in those days, a newsletter to us was not your Christmas or New Year's mimeographed copied letter that you sent out that was the same for everyone. It was a newsletter where we cataloged everything that they learned that they found interesting, and wrote interesting facts about authors or about science or about the creation, or things that they found in their Christian school books from the homeschool years. And those newsletters would go out at least once a month. And I remember we stood in lines in copy shops and had them copied, and mailed out to everyone. And what was interesting about that is that people that didn't know us and did not know my children loved them for what they sent, because they enjoyed it so much, and so they were appreciated for that. Sometimes when you grow up in one place, like the Bible says, a man is without honor in his own country, and that they don't really think you really amounted to much. But you get a newsletter going, and they think that there's something going on in that head. And so we had newsletters. All of us did. I had a newsletter. Mr. S had a newsletter. I had a little homemaking newsletter, to one page both sides. And so if you have someone that you feel you don't want to neglect, but you're not able to see them, I would suggest you write a newsletter. Now, Miss Amy from Idaho has written a newsletter. It's only one side, but the other side is blank, but then she can write a little note on it. So I would suggest you write a newsletter, send it to your mother, send it to your grandmother. Just little things. So I will put a link to where you might be able to read this online. She might have it online, but she'll just have little sayings and things, like keep it simple, keep it meaningful, lovely, local, and useful. And little things, like she'll have a little snippet of everything. Maybe she will have something about scent, maybe she'll have something about a flower, maybe she'll have a little bit of history, maybe she'll have a quote. You can do this and get your children each to do one. Maybe they could just do part of it, like one could do 1/3, write on 1/3 of it, and then the other one, and then you on this one, and send it to the mother and the grandmother. And it doesn't have to have an agenda. It doesn't have to express maybe a different opinion you've had. It can just put facts and things on there that they would know to be true, and that would be somewhat entertaining. You can even have a joke on there. Now, Miss Amy, she saved my life today because she created a craft from the brown paper challenge for me, and it's a little tea tag. It's shaped like a tea bag, and that was inside of the letter, and I just love it. I got all kinds of ideas. You could fold it, make one that folds in half, and use it as a place card, with someone's name on it, or you could make an invitation out of something like this, and just do so much with it. So I'm going to hang this up because I like it. And so now let me continue here. And I hope you're getting something done. Hope you're getting something sorted through, maybe something rather mundane or repetitive. And so now here is, I used to divide this up into 3 sections. One was your appearance, the other was the homemaking itself, getting things done in the house, and the other was dealing with people. I've kind of mixed that up a little bit, but hopefully you can get something from it. So let's go on to our big job, homemaking. I am back here in a room that's all staged, so you can't see the mess I have to clean up. I've had several events here and haven't caught up with everything. And then I just noticed I thought I had the kitchen all clean, and I opened a drawer and it was such a mess, and I hadn't realized it. I just, after a while, don't see it, and I realized I must clean that up. And these kinds of things can really, if you ever think there's nothing to do, that can help you. So what I'd like to express about homemaking, I don't have any homemaking hints, but what I'd like to express about it is this. If we were all to be taught all over again, wouldn't you rather be taught in such a way as to bring the love and the spiritual values into what you're doing? Too many times I think the parents, and me included, would be so strict about the cleaning or the mess or the job or the folding or the housework that we forgot to mention that it's a joy, and to make it a joy by our attitude. But when you scrunch down on someone and you're trying to teach them something and it becomes miserable, they're most likely to cry and to hate the job. So what if you were to create a class for yourself and teach yourself all over again to be happy and to love your housework and to clean up something just because it is good for you and good for your family and good for others, and because I believe that orderliness pleases God, although I'm not going to condemn anybody because if they're not able to do it. And but how about creating a joyous ministry of it instead of a tearful labor? Now we know that in all labor there is profit, the Bible says. But I do believe that we have free rein on how to teach it, and it can be taught as in the old schools as something to hate and that most people will avoid, or it can be taught as something to enjoy and to like. And I think that a lot of it has to do with having a standard for yourself. And if you've had a teacher, if you had someone that had a standard, maybe from training or a book. That's why I like the Butler's Guide to Managing the Home. There's a standard in there, and he even had how to pack a picnic. And I'm not recommending any of these books because some of them might have things in them that don't appeal to you. But if you had a standard and you wrote yourself a little homemaking book on what you'd like your house to be like, and how cleaning it up also deserves a reward in each little section. And I heard one lady say once that she always gave herself some little perk pick me up in the section she had just cleaned, even her refrigerator or the top of her stove. And Emily Barnes was like that too. She'd put a vase of flowers or a vase of herbs, fresh herbs, in her fridge, so when she opened it, it looked pretty. And I have heard many people doing this. They put some little nice bright touch near a place that they have just cleaned. And that's not necessary, that's just more effort, but you can if you need that little extra boost. Now ladies, I also would like to recommend that you have a routine on a little card. Just have a little card like this, fold it up, keep it in your pocket, your apron pocket, or on top of a shelf under a book or something like that you can grab when you need it, and have this real routine that isn't specific to what the day is. And I'll tell you the reason why you need to have this. Just have this handy. If something has thrown you, if some emotional thing has thrown you, and it's happening to everyone in this day and age, people come home, they've lost their job, they've lost their fortune, they've lost their house, they've lost their children. They're all like Job. We're all living in the day of Job. And so what do you do when you get bad news? Perhaps you have a relative, an uncle or an aunt, or somebody who has wreaked havoc with the family with their antics and with the things that they have done, and they've run away and they've done all kinds of things, and you're just like someone kicked you in the stomach. You feel terrible. So that's why you need something like this, but include in it this gentleness, this joyousness that I suggested. So I have a list here. Bathe, dress, do your hair, take care of your skin. If you wear makeup, put that on. You do your Bible meditation, correspondence, tea, and you do your walking or stretches, and you do your kitchen, and then your laundry and other things like that. But in between, poke in a little sit down time with a cup of tea and some happiness, and maybe a special publication that you like, or maybe opening something that you were just saving for after you finish cleaning up the kitchen. And do you ever do that? Order something and then let it sit there and wait until you've finished everything so you can sit down and enjoy it. Or a letter, waiting until you've finished everything before you open the letters. And or you could also just create something for yourself. And so that's why you need yourself a little card like this, and then on it you can put some things in between, like after you finish your preparation. get out your notepad, and a nice clean one with a nice pen, and write down some things that need to be done during the day, but include that on your list. Make a list. And then your Bible and meditation. Now, some people have asked me about this word meditation. It is in the Bible, but unfortunately I think that the modernists, New Agers and stuff have taken that word meditation and obliterated it in such a way that, or messed it up in such a way that Christians are reluctant to touch this subject. But let us take just one thing and meditate. I'll make it easy for you. How about the Lord is my shepherd? Let's just take those words and dwell on them. I think that's all meditation is. It's kind of like chewing on something or regurgitating, like an animal does, So you read it, and then you go back and you chew on it a little bit more. You feast on it a little bit. You look at it a little bit more. The Lord is my shepherd. And the way that we were taught when we were really little was you would take one of the words and pull it out more strongly than the other, such as, the Lord is my shepherd. And that's pretty significant because it indicates there's one Lord. Remember, the Bible says one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one God and Father of us all. And then, because these things will trigger other memories of verses you already know, or things you already know about your spiritual life and life. And so the Lord is my shepherd. Well, then when you dwell on that for a while, that's meditation. And you're thinking about that one word and the meaning of it and the power of it. And the Lord is my shepherd. Is being present, current time, right now. And then you would go to, and this is great for teaching children, taking some little phrase and learning to meditate on it. And it was David who said in the Psalms, I will meditate on your word night and day. So the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. That's personal, isn't it? Sometimes, you get in a religious situation where there's a church and everything, and it's hard to think of it as so personal, and because it's the group is doing the worshiping. That's why I'm telling you that besides that, every single day you need to have your own private worship, because then you can do it as you have need. If you have needs, there are needs that will not be served. Your needs, not all your needs, your emotions and your problems will be served in the corporate church group. But you can have it at home. You sit down and you meditate on one scripture. You sing a psalm or a song, make one up. Just sing what's in your heart. And you pray. And you ask God for something. And you thank God for something. And you praise God for something. And you acknowledge God. And you do these things at home. You have to have it. If you don't have it, then your family, the world, the church will make you feel very crowded and run all over because you haven't had personal time alone with God. And then your worship service on Sunday will lose its meaning. You'll be looking for more than it can provide. And so your personal worship is so important, and it will enhance your Sunday worship. You will feel more confident in that. So I hope that I explained that. Probably didn't explain that well. I'm going back to Elizabeth. Each unwilling to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze everyone. And that didn't amaze me much, so I don't think it amazed you much. I just tried to explain something. So have a routine on a little card and pull it out and fall back on it when you get devastated, when you get bad news, because this card will help you just to start over. Now, I know it seems a little ridiculous to start over with your bathing, dressing, and redoing your hair, but you can go and freshen yourself up. You can go do something. You can go, those of you who wear lipstick, you can just go reapply your lipstick and put some perfume on. It makes a little bit of a difference. And then your Bible meditation, your correspondence, your tea, your prayer, and then go back and do all the things that you listed on here. That's housework. But in between housework, let's make it gentle and joyous instead of a tearful labor. Let's go into that dark laundry room at the end of the house and pull it out and be happy. And some people just do different things that help them. I like to put my apron on, and I'll put my little phone in there just in case one of my children texts me. I don't want to get lost in there. And also might listen to something that I like. And so while I'm talking about that, I want to get to this the slow life. I want to talk to you about that because we are suffering so badly. I know because I have the ladies class here once a week, and I also visit with other people, and every one of them feels like they aren't quite as stable or balanced as they should be. And it's because it's like when I started homeschooling, I shifted away the support structure from me that would have carried my children through 12 years without me worrying about it. So no longer did I have the approval of the neighbors. No longer did I have the approval of the church members or the school people. And we didn't go to all the school events that they had. And I mean, their whole society was structured around it. And that was pulled out from under me. And so then I had to start making the family the focus. We would provide our entertainment. We would provide our education. We would provide our spiritual life. We would provide our sewing, our clothes, our food. And it wasn't like we were isolated because we invited people over. Other people knew what we were doing. And we had our newsletters. And so we could, keep track of all of this for other people. And we also went on trips many, many times. Trips and learned new things. But it's the same today for those of you whose society has been pulled out from under them. Your shops might be gone. Your all your services, like things that you're used to getting someone else to do for you, whether it's personal and providing things for you and services for you. Now you have to figure out how to do it yourself, or how to do it with a few other independent people. And so you've got this whole structure that's pulled out from under you, your daily life, going out when you want to, without restrictions. Now, in many places in the U.S., it's not like that. It's all completely open. But we are in Oregon. I originally came from Texas to here, but in Oregon, we still have a governor. I'm a governor here, but she thinks she's governor over me, but actually I'm the governor. I'm governor over her because if she comes anywhere near my house. And she says that masks are permanent, like for the rest of your life and the rest till the end of the world. Like she's God or something. She knows this. And but they're not permanent here. And she also thinks that we should all download some things on our phone that give everybody personal information about our medical past. And I have known people that have not been able to get jobs because they went for an interview, and the interviewer could easily access this person's medical records and would find something that would give them an excuse not to hire them, such as maybe they had some kind of surgery or something that, I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it all. It could be even that they had been depressed, or not on anything, but just had mentioned it on a doctor's record that they had felt depressed, or that the box had been checked, or something like that. And well, they want us to reveal all that. And so we have had many of our structures not only pulled out from under us, but other things imposed on us. So now, what we're going to have to do, ladies, at home, this home thing is a big thing because it's the final thing that they want to break down is the family. And there are families splitting up, which is the saddest thing. And you've probably noticed this, that sometimes someone that you least expected would leave his family. We have heard of several that just out of the blue, no one knew that it was going on, that he had any idea of leaving his family. But the Bible says it was the Proverbs that says, like a bird that wanders from his nest, so is a man who wanders from his home. And this has gone on forever. I used to read old stories of the ladies in Victorian times from old magazines and old books of women whose husbands just kind of wandered off in the Wild West and did not come back. So it's not a new thing. But when if you get any kind of upheaval or anything that's upsetting you, it can really affect your sleep, your stomach, your mind. And so that's why you need to have on a card a list of things that you go write down, some good things for you to do, also some necessary things that will help you move, because that helps your mind. But also, I believe that we all need to start trying to live the slow life. It's a instinct the minute you hear bad news to go rustle around and do something fast. Just I remember in Wives and Daughters when Molly was busy slicing bread and she was just frantically slicing it. You could hear it hit the wooden cutting board, because she was so upset that was it Mrs. Hamley that was sick and her father had gone to see her and they were expecting her to die, and so Molly was just busy moving her arms and cutting that bread, and that is what we tend to do. We just want to rush around and do something, but I think that it's really important to live the slow life. And if someone is sick at home, it's important to be as calm as you can. Nobody writes a book for us to read as to what to say or do when someone throws us for a loop. There, to this day, has not been anything you could read except the Bible, and you'd have to know exactly some of the things people throw at you today. You can't even figure it out enough to figure out how to approach it. If you're quiet and you don't say anything, they get upset. If you say something, they get upset, and you can't win. But if you had a list of something you could go back to and just start that routine, have a stormy day routine that's a little bit different. Let's say you've already done all these things, you've done the preparation, and you have been up, you've done the main parts, and then something happens and you become upset. You need another list with the things that you can do that will help, because in order to get away from some of the rigors of home and the hard work of it, women over the last couple centuries enjoyed going out. They'd go on a scenic trip, or they'd go see something they hadn't seen before, just go shopping. It was a relaxing thing to do, and see what the trends were, see what was available from the market. When you get that taken away from you, then we have to realize how dependent we were on it and how we can replace it in our home. As a matter of fact, I am going to have a Jane Austen day or afternoon or something like that, couple of hours, and I'm going to have a little shop in it for them to browse in. It's just going to be a shelf or a cabinet that opens up, and they can go in, and we'll just have homemade things, cards and things that we do there, and or things that we don't want anymore, and have a shop, so that someone can shop that really doesn't enjoy going out there anymore. And so I wanted to introduce you to something very interesting. The slow path. Have you ever thought about that? I'm afraid that I would be a little apprehensive about the slow path, because my mind works so fast that I might become impatient with it. But I got on the videos and started looking around at videos and ran across the following slow path type. I just typed in slow path on the search area on YouTube, and I came across so many people, and they're young too, which I really appreciate. I really love the young people. They are so smart, and every single one of these, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 of them, and there are more, and there are some that were men. I didn't list those, but you can go and look. The slow path, one of the things that they had in common was that the life that they were presented with to live did not suit them. And it's like we've said, they expect one size fits all. Everybody goes into a school or a university. Everybody goes into an office job. Everybody goes into work for a corporation. Everybody, and then they have, 5 or 6 days a week hard work, and then a weekend, and then this and that, and then everything's regulated in their life. Even their vacations are regulated by someone else. And so every one of these young women had said they finally had to admit that it was making them ill. It was making them nervous. They were not really producing any of the real potential inside of their minds and their creative hearts and the love that they had for their children and their home. And they finally admitted that was not for them. And it's so sad because I homeschooled my children. I wished I had been homeschooled too, because it really, I'm beginning as I get older see what the damage really was in our thinking, that we could only do things this one way, and you weren't successful if you didn't. And this word success was totally taken out of context of what God expects from it. And so I wanted to mention these delightful video channels that you might want to go look at. Or if you don't want to look at them, just go to the YouTube search area and type in the slow path and or slow living, and see what you get. You're going to find some interesting things. Now, they don't all express the same values as you and I have, but there might be something there that would be helpful. It's A Charming Life. That's the name of one of them. Girl in Calico. The Slow Path. Hand and Harvest. Now, she's the one that talks about Jane Austen sometimes. Girl in Calico. Cottage Fairy. Darling Desi. That's Desi. Whitney Barkman. Now, there are many more than this, and so all I'm going to do is put the link to the list. When I type in slow living, I'm just going to put the link to that, and then you can go pick out some things that you like. And so for slow living, if you don't want to do that, then I would suggest that you include on your list, your daily list, some semblance, some idea of slow living. And I would suggest, well, for myself, this is what I put that. I need to iron something. Ironing really helps me. That steam, comes up into my face, and then to see something pressed. And because I'm started to buy things or make things of the 100% fabric, the cotton, the linen, the different things, that are woven, and some of the knits that are natural too, they will need pressing. So I'm able to do that. And I remember growing up in the old days that my mother was ironing my father's flannel shirt to go to work in the oil fields or on the highway, or when he was out on the fishing boat, because they still had pride. Today I don't think anyone cares, but that is one of the worst things that permanent press did for us, is it just made people not think too much about it, because they just could throw it on. But the labor that went into someone's shirt was pretty amazing. And I remember we had to we were a little bit behind in those days out in the wilderness. I'm sure everybody in California had electric irons, but we didn't, and we had to heat them on the cook stove, which was made out of cast iron, and be really careful to press it and not burn the shirt and not burn ourselves, and they were very heavy. Well, it's no wonder everybody was so slender in those days, the stuff we had to pack around. So if you want to have a slow day, you might try that. Just iron a shirt. And the other thing is I would encourage you to do is, if you cannot, I know that a lot of you probably won't be doing these videos, but you could do it in a journal. You could do the slow path in a journal. You could get an idea for your journal. Maybe you're not very artistic, but you could put a little sketch there or a description, and do one of these things in a journal. Remember I showed you that book, Cottage Core? There are several of those now written with different things in them, but it had something to do, some little thing to do. And I know some very busy mothers have a lot of children. They'll take time in their day just to sew one thing. And I've shown this to you before, but this was one of the things my daughter made. It looks like a flower, doesn't it? Well, what it is, and that way she could sit down and sew one little thing that wasn't going to take forever. What it is this a wrist. You put it on your wrist when you're sewing using the machine, and you put your pins in it, or just set it down and use it as a pin cushion. She's just taken the petals off of an old silk flower and used it like that. Just little things. If you had one little thing to do a day, and a place to collect it, or to write in a journal every day, or write some kind of slow living experience in a journal. And so I would like to encourage you to have a natural day at home. A natural day at home. I'm going to try to have a natural 2 hours in my home for some people who really want to get away from the stress. And sometimes it's nicer to come to somebody else's home than your own. We don't want our homes to be sources of stress. Remember, was it Osborne in Wives and Daughters told his father, a home is no longer a place of comfort to me, but a place of stress. And so we don't want to have that. We dread it if someone says that to us. So what we do is if someone says that to us, we just work on it and we make it better. That's the best way to overcome some of these barbs, some of these things people say. And so have a natural day at home, and I'm planning it, and we'll do everything. Mine, I think, will probably be a Jane Austen type day, because the people I know have the costumes, and they have memorized all the sayings, and we'll have an enjoyable time. But I will have them write a letter, and I think I'll make them make their own board games. I'll have them sing, read, and sew and paint, and go for walks, and go for a turn about the room, and have conversations, and we'll have tea, and eat. We'll have the bread of Jane Austen's day, the good bread, not the stuff that's stuffed with chalk. And so do something slow. It's not just that, things that you can think. And then if you do have a day at home and there's no one there, and you want to expand your mind and you want to get more energy and creativity, then you might think of a theme of travel or of a time. I don't want to say it's time travel, but we have often enjoyed doing something that we would have done, that our grandmothers would have done, that our great-grandmothers would have done. And I remember when we used to have the Pioneer Day, and we would all go to someone's farm, and they would provide for us a day in which we would eat and play and sing and do the things that their grandparents had done when they first came over on the Oregon Trail. And we can reenact many things, not just something like that. But do you think you might have something there to do in your life that you want to do, even if it's just for a couple of hours of thinking of them and honoring their memory? So I also want to talk to you about something about the feeling that I have heard other people tell me, that, and we've all discussed this at home too, the feeling that you don't belong anymore in your realm, in your life, in your role, because of course a lot of things have been pulled out from under people, and they don't really know what kind of future they're going to have, and it's like you're just kind of traveling through and passing through, but you're not accepted, And I've heard people say that, especially those who have lost all of their loved ones. They've lost all of their relatives, maybe never had children, or maybe did lose their children. I don't know, but it reminded me of a word, sojourner, sojourn. And for years, I'd look at that word, sojourner. I first learned it in the Bible, and it came with Abraham, I think. A sojourner. The word journal, journer, and journey seems to be in it, so I always thought it meant someone who was traveling, but not necessarily so. It means a dweller in a land that doesn't belong to them, neither native nor foreign nor a servant. They're sojourners. That means they're staying there. They're a resident, and it's a temporary resident, although they may be there for generations. Temporary residents dependent on the country they're in to help and sustain them. And it's the host nation. And for as long as I have lived in one place, I sometimes feel that I would never be part of it, never be accepted. And that's what a sojourner is. It's a dweller in a land that that is not theirs. In fact, I think that it actually was quite common for a whole nation to be sojourning in, which doesn't mean journey. I don't know why that word is in there, but sojourning in another land. And I'm thinking particularly of the Basques, or Basques, and I believe were they from northern Spain? And some of you people in Europe will have to correct me because I don't know anything about that. But we have them here, and they form their own communities and still consider themselves a nation. So they are a nation within a nation. So in a way, I am and you are. If you get these feelings that you don't quite belong, your mama's gone, your daddy's gone, all your relatives are gone. Now, not everybody will be like that, but some people feel they are not connected, and it's comforting, isn't it, for our children to have us and to have their extended families and their brothers and sisters. We want to keep them reminded to love each other and to be close, so they won't have that feeling of being detached and scattered. They keep them close to one another, and also remind the children to honor you too, by not forgetting who you are, and by not forgetting to include you, because you're the one that started it all. And so a sojourner is a fascinating thing, and that's your assignment today, is look up sojourner. Just go to the web and look it up and read what you can about the sojourner. You might not feel that you are. Some people do, and I think probably preachers' wives like me would be more inclined to feel that, because we would go to a place where we didn't belong. And as a matter of fact, Mr. S would tease me and say, well, there are a lot of young people here, and they aren't lonely. And I would say to him, well, she lives right next door to her sister. She lives a block down from her mother. And all their relatives go to the same church, So here I was, plucked up out of one place and put into another place where I was just sojourning. I was just temporary resident in a place that wasn't my own. And it'll always be hard to relate to people that you're not in their land, you're sojourning. And so the Bible mentions Abraham, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus as sojourners. So please look up sojourner for me. Ladies, would you please leave a comment about the sojourner? Have you ever felt like a sojourner? Why do you think the word journey is in there if they're not going anywhere, if they're just planted in? Is it because they went to a land? A lot of them, their ancestors came to this land, but they didn't go anywhere. They're still, they're part of the nation, but they consider themselves sojourners. Now, I wanted to talk to you one more thing, probably not real pleasant, kids, but I just want to talk, well, there are two more things here. And since I haven't been here in a while, I think I deserve to talk a long time, don't you? I'm going to take a little break here and talk about the walking skirt, because I had been so inspired by Brian Kozlowski's book, and I finally went and looked to see what some of the other people were writing reviews on him, and they were saying awful things. This man, I read it to you. Did you think it was awful? He just had a sense of humor, He wasn't making fun of it. He was just emphasizing it, and sometimes humor emphasizes. But the walk like an Elizabeth was particularly, I didn't think it would affect me, because I would have been more interested in the mind-body connection chapter he had, and that was fine, and I really enjoyed it. But the walking one was the one I could practice, that I just saw such a difference in. And years ago, my daughter made me an Edwardian walking skirt, which I never wore, and this is what the side buttons look like. Really cute, isn't it? They didn't have zippers in those days, so everything had a kind of a placket and overlapped, which is great for captivity, because if you run out of zippers, you can just learn how to lap over your fabric and make a button or something like that, or some kind of fastener. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the front, and why it was called the walking skirt. I have to get up here. Is it has a big old pleat in the front to make it easier to walk in. See there? See how long it is? I have to hem it up before I can wear it, and it's been sitting there for years, which not hemmed up. But this is the walking skirt, okay? So the other day, I decided, well, I'm not in the mood to go for my Jane Austen walk. I just need to be in a costume. I need to feel like really feel like it. So I put this on, and it was amazing the mental transformation that takes place when you're wearing these clothes. Now, the Edwardian clothes were actually quite loose, and it's of a great, I don't know what kind of fabric it is, but very heavy. And as I was walking, I was slowed down by it. First of all, it's long. Second of all, it's heavy. I'm not going to go lickety split through the farm path down here, or through the forest. But what a difference that calling it a walking skirt helped too. And it's from this catalog called Folkwear. And this is from all the nations of the world in the past, the 1800s, I would say, 1700s, just even ancient. And I would like to make every one of them. And so this year I decided that I was going to make, they even have a riding skirt, and they have the some Australian costumes from back in the day. And I wish I could show you all, but you can order yourself one of these. I think they're still printing. It says search for Folkwear on Pinterest, find us on Facebook, and visit our website at www.folkwear.com to see more of the patterns. But I like to order the patterns. They have downloads, but I just never have been able to work with that. And so that was what she made me, and what a difference it made in my mood. And it reminds me of an earlier video that I did for you where I related how I had listened to a documentary of the movie Gone with the Wind by the director, who said he insisted that all of the actors wear things that people wouldn't see, such as a wrap or a belt, or a certain type of socks in their shoes, and things that you wouldn't even notice. Or even if they were wearing a coat, he insisted that the garment underneath it be authentic to the time. And they would say, why does it matter when no one's going to see it? And he said, no one's going to know we have it on. And it's like with the ladies' petticoats and things like that. He wanted everything to be authentic. Well, he said, and I believe this was the quote, they won't know that you're wearing it, but you will, and it will affect your countenance. It will affect your posture. It will affect your attitude. And I had really found that to be true when wearing a replica of the Edwardian. I believe this was called the Edwardian. I may be wrong. The Edwardian walking skirt, and I really liked the side buttons. Gave me some ideas. I'm going to wear that more, and kind of had to pull up the sides because the hem was a little bit long, but I suppose that's what they did. And I noticed that they did drag a little bit low. And if you remember Elizabeth going for a walk through the mud and everything. And so then I wanted to show you that. And also I want to show you one more thing. And this is, remember I mentioned cottagecore, on how that book motivated me to turn it into a course or a class. We always do better, don't we, when someone gives us an assignment or we feel that we must do something on time for someone else, or we give ourselves an assignment. We always do better, just brighten up at it. And we used to be able to, before the World War, don't mention the war, before the war, we used to look around to see what classes were available. We could go take a class somewhere. And sometimes the stores were really good about offering, if they were selling some kind of a thing like back in the day with the rubber stamps, at night the shop would open up and they would sell you a ticket, and you could come in and learn more, and then buy some of their products. And the cloth departments would do that too. And art, you could go learn to make a painting. But now all of our classes are, you can't get out to do classes, so we have to start. And I don't do well often on Zoom or the internet, because too much of the screen can really make me feel nauseous. So what I decided to do was what these cottagecore books are saying, and they had a a page for each season or something to do. I would take a pattern that I liked, an old pattern, and I decided I'm just going to make everything on there. And this was the pattern that I picked, and it's a cape so that it looks like a coat, but I thought I'll just make everything on there. And since you don't have to do sleeves and there are not many pieces on it, it will be a lot simpler. Maybe I will finish each job. And so I just started looking at things a little different way and wanting to make everything on it. Okay, now I have one more thing to tell you, two more things to tell you. Just let me reach over here. Would somebody, I know you told me in an email that you were sending this. It's West from Home, Letters of Laura Ingalls Wilder. Now the problem is, when it got to me, it was sent from the used bookstore, and that address was on it and not yours. So I've forgotten, and there was no note in it or anything, so I've forgotten who it was. And I looked everything here. But it was written in 1915 in San Francisco. Now this will come home to you, ladies who are kind of listening to the media and, you know, wondering, because I was showing you this for the reason that I just love all countries in the world. I want all these clothes. I want the one from Uzbekistan and the one from Afghanistan, and I want the Gaza dress, and I want the Nepali blouse, and I want the Afghan nomad dress, and the Turkish coat, and the Syrian dress, and I want the Japanese field clothing, and the kimono. I want the Chinese jacket, and the shirts of Russia and Ukraine, and there was a Russian dress here I just loved, and I want the Tibetan panel coat, and I want the Navajo blouse and skirt, and the Hong Kong dress, and I want the Austrian dirndl, and the vest from Greece and Poland, and the Russian settler's dress. Oh, that's a cute one. I really like to have that. I'm not Russian. I've had my DNA done, and I'm not anything other than I guess it was England. That's it. It's not exotic. It's not interesting at all. But now Mr. S, his was exotic. He was like from all these. He was Greek and Portuguese and all these other things. And but I love all of it. I like it anyway. And I want the Moroccan cape. I want the Australian bush outfit. And I want the Jewels of India garments, which were the tunics and other things, and the Australian drover's coat, and the old Mexico dress, and the American tribal clothing. I want it all. So what I decided to do, let's see, let me just keep reading. The Hungarian, looks like a Hungarian cloak, and the Scottish kilt, Siberian parka, the prairie dress, the Victorian shirt, the Edwardian clothing, Gibson girl blouse, the quilted prairie skirt, the Kinsale cloak, which I have already made. I've shown that to you actually. And the walking skirt. I don't think this is the same one. This is a Victorian walking skirt, slightly different than that one. The armistice blouse, and I'm trying to think all this other stuff. So what I decided to do was, I have a lot of calico and gingham saved up, just little tiny prints of cotton, and I thought that one of the reasons that has prevented me from making more of these and getting the patterns and making them was trying to get the fabrics authentic, because of course you wouldn't wear a little cotton calico floral garment in Mongolia on the out in the cold, you know, and but I just wanted to I wanted to see what they felt like as best I could. So I'll take all these fabrics that I've collected in my stash, and I'll just make them that way, because who cares, you know, I just wear them around the house or walk around the manse or walk down a farm road in them, and then maybe even make a museum in one of the rooms with the label on them. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this book here, because I mentioned how I like all the countries of the world and all their clothing, and I always read about them and study about them. And when my children were growing up, we tried to do a maybe foreign food with a costume, or somehow learn a little bit about some other place, And so there was a page in here that I read. These are the letters of Laura Ingalls Wilder to her husband, and it reminded me of something that General MacArthur had said about the deep insider government inside of most governments, including the American government, the deep state, or the ones that are the hidden kings. There's a book called The Hidden Kings you can read about all these people that run things and make out like there's always an enemy. There's always someone we can't like, and always someone we can't love. Well, listen to this. In 1915, Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote, I must tell you about Rose's interview with Fritz Kreisler, the Austrian violinist who served 4 weeks in the trenches and came out wounded, so that he is unfit for further service. I think I wrote you that he was sending all he could back to help, not to carry on the war, but to save other artists from starving and to care for those 43 children they have adopted. He said there was no hatred for each other among the soldiers, and that all those stories of barbarities committed by the soldiers of one side on the wounded of the other side were simply made up by the papers and those higher up for the sake of inflaming popular passion and creating a hatred. He said that both German and Russian, when gathering up the wounded from a battlefield, took them all, German and Russian, and treated them alike. Now, and then she goes on to tell about a Russian doctor and an Austrian nurse and different people during this tragic time. And so this is what I was saying, that don't pay any attention to any of that. And so it's always gone on. Even in the time of Christ, he knew that reporters would go out and report lies about him and his movement. He knew that the reporters would go out and say that he had come back when he hadn't, and he appeared somewhere when he hadn't. They've always been liars, haven't they? And so now I want to talk about apprehension and mind clutter. I want to talk to you about that because sometimes everything is pretty much okay at home. You've got everything in control, and then you have a feeling that something's not quite right, and you feel irritated, and especially as you get older. So this video is not for just the young people. It's for the elderly too. I don't want to limit it to just the elderly. I don't want to say it's an over 70s video, because when you've homeschooled your children, you learn that all generations have to interact together. We don't separate them. We don't separate them all into groups of. When I have people here, like for the ladies' class or for a Jane Austen day, they're all ages. We don't divide people according to age groups, and that's one of the beauties of home things and homeschooling, is that it's not limited to one age group. But so this is for everybody. This is for the young too, because I began this when I was 16 years old, and that is, cut a lemon into 4 pieces and squeeze a piece into some pure water, and if you like, you can add some Manuka honey or some pure honey. I don't need to, but every day drink that in hot water. Every day drink some of that in hot water. Now some people would rather use a half a lemon or a whole lemon. This is the way I have done it, because I don't know if you know about this delicate situation called the bowels, which the Bible even mentions. The Bible talks about something being health to your bowels, and the bowels were just as important as the digestion, and just as important as the taste and the tongue and the other functions of the Bible. The bowels were just as important. And because of bad food, bad flour, we talked about bad flour, bad bread, bad mass-produced food, people have more trouble with that, and this is very helpful. But if you feel rather irritated, something's not quite right, think about that, drink your lemon, and eliminate, because it's amazing how it can, if you try it. A lot of people have said it really does clear their mind, because everything is connected. Everything is interconnected. All problems are transferred from one part of the body to another. And sometimes, and we have to take care of ourselves, take care of our minds too. And I noticed little children, sometimes they'll get busy playing and they don't really want to go to the bathroom, but they have to, and they start jumping around. They get real nervous and they want to put things together, and they're putting their Legos together. They know they have to go to the bathroom, and their mother finally has to make them take a break and go because they don't want to. Well, this is what happens to us when we don't have good health, is we start getting irritated. We feel tension. We feel apprehension. We feel like we can't focus on something, and a large amount of our problems are, and even when people get depressed, even they need to take care of their bowels. They need to practice elimination. This is so important. Now that's another one of your assignments. So look that up. Find out. You can go. The one that I like to listen to is Dr. Berg on YouTube, and I just type in his name and dash whatever the subject I want to hear about it. He just takes a couple of minutes. I don't listen to the ones that are very long, unlike me. And so I wanted to mention that to you because not only that, but there are other side effects that are good to the lemon and the honey. I don't care for honey myself, but you might. And rules for me and not for thee. Rules for thee and not for me, or something like that. And to take care of your health. And I also want to read you something, the book of Ruth. The reason is because I've been discussing sojourning, which means you're a resident in a land that you don't belong to, and you consider yourself temporary. And I've known types of people who are nations of people who've been temporary, for hundreds of years. And I suppose you might think you are temporary. I'd like to. Wouldn't you like to think that you belonged in your own country? But sometimes you can get a government that will make you feel most unwelcome. But I want to read to you about Ruth because I believe that she ended up being a stranger because her husband had died and she wasn't even related to her mother-in-law. I don't think. I'm not sure. But because in some ways, distantly, some of these people were related. But I just want to read this story because it's so sad and soft at the same time, and yet so triumphant. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn. There you have the word sojourn again. It means went to stay in a land that he didn't belong to. Went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went out into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that's Naomi, the elderly woman, to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each one of you to your own mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, No, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? I have no sons yet in my womb, that they may become your husbands. Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even I should have a husband this night and should bear sons. Would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter for me for your sake. that the hand of the Lord has gone against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me," and other versions say, "entreat me not, to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. And so then the story continues about how she found a... well, let me just finish a little bit of it, because people had found out. This was without mail and internet and the phone. People found out what kind of woman Naomi was, and that she had come into town with her daughter-in-law Ruth. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me." Mara means bitter. "I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi, when the Lord testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. And so I'd like to read more of that to you later. It's kind of sad and happy at the same time, how someone recovered their lives, and how Ruth and the whole family were sojourners, but especially Ruth. She had no one. She wasn't even related to her mother-in-law, and yet she clung to her, and she must have instinctively known that there would be a way for her to have a life if she stayed with this woman. So, ladies, I don't know what else to talk to you about, and I hope that you are going to get a lot done through this video today. And I have been, since I studied about sojourning, I got curious about people who don't stay very long anywhere, and I ran across, I don't know why this appealed to me, and it was called stealth camping. And I found all these people that put out videos of their stealth camping, and the idea of stealth camping is to go somewhere you will not be noticed. It's not in a camp, a regular camp. It's not around people. Is to camp somewhere overnight where you would not be noticed. It's not a place that's illegal, but it's a place that is not noticed. And so I found several of them that camped out in the most interesting places, and I thought about the stealth. The stealth is that you won't be noticed, and they advised, how to be quiet, and what to wear, and what kind of things to have, and watch about your lights and things like that. And I got to thinking, after I had watched so many of these stealth camping videos, which I'm glad they do them, and they seem so delighted, so happy to do them. One of them, he has a wife that drops him off at the designated place. They'll look on a map first and find out if it's BLM land, like BLM means Bureau of Land Management. I don't know what it's called in Canada, Crown Land or something. And so all these different people have their own, and they're individuals. They don't go in groups. They just go by themselves. But one of them has a wife that drops him, or a son that drops him off at the designated place. They'll study about it on the map, and then he'll live stream his activities, and it's usually where they can get good Wi-Fi, and then he'll give it a rating, whether it was a 5-star or 4, depending on the noise, or depending on the comfort, or depending on the weather, or whether he was really prepared. And I was thinking about sojourning and the feeling sometimes that I get, and maybe some of you get, that you never really were accepted in the land in which you, even the land you were born. You never felt really like you belonged with anybody, and how we're all stealth living. And we're stealth. I even feel like sometimes I'm stealth shopping, and being stealth happy. And, not being noticed, and still enjoying life, and that we are stealthily going about our business and having success in many things. And So that was just one of my little idiosyncrasies for the day, and I hope you have a wonderful day and that you get a lot done while you listen to this. Remember, it's only my opinion and it's just for your entertainment, and you don't have to do it, but it might give you some ideas. So let me know in the comments some of your ideas and some of the other things I have asked you about in during the session in which I have spoken to you. And I hope to come here more. I always say I hope to come here more often. If I could get out of the habit of thinking, I've got to get that kitchen cleaned up, and I've got to get all that laundry done. I've got to get that mess cleaned up at the end of the room and all these things put away. If I could get out of that habit and start doing it first, start broadcasting first instead of at last, I'd probably get something done here every day for you. And I have a wonderful grandson. I always tell him he's my favorite, but then when the other ones come, I tell them they're my favorite. So anyway, he's teaching me how to play the banjo, and I included a link on the previous post. If you want to go down to the previous post and go and listen to some of his playing, he's very interested in foreign music too, so he plays some of that, and he lives out in ranching country, and I live down here in the valley in farming country, so it was really a pleasure to have a lesson. And one of the rules now I have for all these descendants, including my children, when you come to see me, I want you to tell me something or show me something or teach me something. So I got my lesson, and I hope to have more, and maybe I can teach them something too. I'd like to have art lessons for them, but I'd also like to have bread baking lessons for them. So, ladies, please leave a comment if you can. I don't insist on that because I know it just takes time. And the idea of these kind of videos were to listen as you go and to be able to do something. I have a lot of favorite videos, but I have to stop and look. And I didn't want you to have to stop. And that's one reason I don't do a live stream. But maybe someday I will. So I will talk to you later. God bless. Stay close to God. And if you can, leave a comment. Bye.